Many of the terms used in ham radio have their origins with the original Morse code used in telegraph offices since 1844, when Baltimore and Washington, D.C. were connected by wire. Less than 20 years later, in 1861, the American East and West Coasts had been completely connected. The early operators of these systems developed a shorthand of a sort which sped up the process of forwarding messages. Teletype came into common use with Western Union around 1855, and Morse code was phased out in favor of the printing telegraph. However, as many of the teletype operators used to be Morse code operators, the shorthand messages remained. Radio telegraphy was patented by Marconi in 1897 using Morse code and a spark gap transmitter. Its first large-scale use was by the British Empire during the Boer War from 1899 to 1902. Amateurs soon adopted the technology and continued to use the shortcuts to communicate more efficiently. In 1928, the Teletype Corporation, a subsidiary of AT&T, added a modem and a radio to the basic teleprinter for wireless telegraph operations, and radio teletype, or RTTY, RTTY, was born. After the Second World War, amateurs came into the picture in a big way by purchasing military surplus RTTY machines, again adopting the same codes that they were now very used to. These codes continued to be used today, so this video will look at 10 of them, and one bonus one that, while used on other services, should never ever be used on any ham band ever. We'll take a look at each of these terms and how they're used on CW and RTTY, HF single sideband, FM repeaters, including digital voice, and using them during contests. The first is probably the most familiar and the most used. CQ literally comes from CQ and is used to initiate a contact, calling anybody listening, a specific station, or to a specified larger group. On CW or RTTY, to call for anyone listening, send your CQ followed by DE or D, and then your call. To call a specific area or group, send CQ followed by a description of the area or group, then DE and your call. For example, if I send CQ-DX, DE, ND3N, that indicates that I want to talk to anyone outside of the US. In a contest, send CQ followed by the context abbreviation, such as CQWPX for the Worldwide Prefix Contest, or CQFD for Field Day. You can also specify a state or a country. To call a specific station, send your call followed by D, and then the call of the station you want. By the way, D is French for from, like Charles de Gaulle, Chuck from Gaul. At the time the shortcuts were being developed, French was the international language, or lingua franca, a Latin term meaning language of France. English is now considered the international language. Now, on an FM repeater, you don't use CQ. Just toss out your call. Some people like to add listening, like ND3N, listening, or just ND3N. Now, please don't use my call, use yours. FM repeaters are less formal. As a general guideline for whenever you're doing something for the first time or you're kind of new on doing it, listen for a bit. Hear what the other people are doing, see how things are done there, then do things that way and you'll be fine. Digital voice repeaters generally follow the same guidelines as local FM repeaters. The next term, QSL, has several meanings depending on the context. It can mean that someone is requesting a QSL card or other confirmation of the contact, like Logbook of the World or EQSL. It can also mean that you agree with someone. It can also be a question or a request, sometimes but not always followed by a question mark. During the contest, QSL means either, did you copy my exchange? Or, in confirmation, I copied your exchange. QSL isn't used much on FM repeaters. You can tell the old timers because they will use it. Usually say QSL that, just to agree with people. But you'll hear it occasionally, just as I mentioned. Just make your request, ask or answer a question, use common language on a local FM repeater. It's about the easiest communication you'll do. Just need to remember to toss out your call sign every 10 minutes. Again, listen to the repeater for a bit, you'll get the hang of it. QRZ, and make sure you use Z, not Z, Z. It's important. The main reason it's important is Z is not necessarily used in most other countries. They use Z. Also, Z can be confused with C, and maybe some other letters too, but mostly C. So QRZ. You use QRZ on CW and RTTY and SSB when interference, like during poor conditions, in a pileup, or other circumstances that make copying calls difficult. It means who is calling me, and is used by sending or saying QRZ followed by your call, or your call followed by a QRZ. During contests, it means I completed the previous exchange, who is calling me next for the contest? Now, I'm sure I've heard it on an FM repeater, but I can't tell you when, certainly not recently. Perhaps it's used by net control during emergency nets for weather, races, or Aries. Hey, Skywarn, races, Aries guys, please correct me in the comments below. I'd sure like to know. We can all learn something. C is used strictly, the letter C is used strictly on CW and simply means yes. On RTTY, C is replaced by either a single letter R or sometimes three letters R, three R's, so RRR. That means Roger. Now on SSB, the word Roger is used. During contests on both CW and RTTY, RRR is used because that's what they're looking for. It's a confirmation thing. Voice contests use Roger, and again on FM repeaters, just say, yeah, got it. On CW and RTTY, FB means fine business, and it means you agree with what was sent previously, or as you acknowledge that you received the previous message. On SSB and FM repeaters, just say the words, fine business. There's usually no reason to use it during a contest. OM, now we're getting into some fun ones. OM means old man. It's kind of like the British, fine business, old man. And it regards any ham, regardless of age or gender. So man, woman, boy, octogenarian, they're all old men. You use OM on CW and RTTY. You say the words on SSB and that's single sideband and FM repeaters. Now, additionally, we have the term YL, and these are all related, so I'm putting them under one. Don't count them separately if you're counting up for 10. The term YL stands for young lady. Now that is a female ham of any age. Now this one's a little tender. An XYL is someone's wife, and it was started a long time ago. I personally don't use it to refer to my wife because she knows where I sleep. RST is the signal report given to you by whoever you are working. RST stands for reliability, strength, and tone. And on CW, sometimes on RTTY, the T for tone will be replaced by a Q for quality. Take a look at the website listed in the video description for a complete description of RST. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop a line down in the comments. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Single sideband doesn't use tone. It just uses the report as RS, reliability and strength. RST is not used on FM repeaters, as any report would be to the repeater and not the person asking for the report. So you really can't tell how your signal is going out. Repeaters have great ears and extra power, great antennas up high. So you can't use a signal report to tell how your HT or your mobile rig is operating. In these cases, if you are wondering how things are working, trust your radio. If you're good enough to make it to the repeater, your signal is probably good enough to have a nice long chat with just about anybody. In contests, the signal report is always 599 for CW and RTTY and 59 for voice contest. This is because RST is often part of the required exchange. Since everyone has agreed on 599 or 59, it makes exchanging reports faster and easier. Some contests have gotten away from using RST and use other information like your name or your location, your favorite color, who knows. Now, QSY, that can either mean change your frequency or I'm changing my frequency. This is used on CW and RTTY, and especially during contests when the bands are crowded and someone may be inadvertently interfering with someone else. You can't hear everyone, and it's inevitable that this will happen. So someone else who can hear both signals might step in and ask one of you to QSL. They'll say something like ND3N, QSY up 2, which means move up 2 kilohertz, please. And I would understand why they were asking me. When used on FM repeater, it generally is to tell other hams that you are changing into onto another repeater or simplex frequency. Maybe you know that you're getting near the range of the repeater and you want to swap over. 7.3 means best regards, and it's usually a nice way of saying goodbye. It's used everywhere, all modes, and feel free to use it. Now, one nitpick I have is when someone says, hey, best 73s, which would be saying best regards. Kind of like calling the automatic teller machine at the bank the ATM machine. You're being a little redundant, but we all do it. 73 in Morse code is da da dit 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 da da, which is easy to send, hard to mistake, and by the way, a palindrome in Morse. For fun, take a look at the link in the video description for why 73 is the best number. A lid is a bad operator. It's seldom used these days, and the word itself has become a bit of a taboo. In the past, people were shunned and even kicked out of clubs for being accused of being a lid, while others were looked down on for just making the accusation. Here's a little story about a friend of mine. I asked his permission to use this and promised not to out him. So please respect his privacy. Don't go searching for him. He has the word lid in his vanity call sign. I asked him why he did it, and he told me he wanted a call sign that was easy to remember and easy to pull out of an SSB pileup. A tertiary consideration, his words, not mine, for picking up the call sign was to generate a conversation on the air. It always kickstarts the discussion. He finished up by telling me that a final reason was that he felt, and still does, and I agree with him, that we amateur radio operators take ourselves a little too seriously. And now, for the bonus term that shall not be used. I know you've been waiting for it. Using the CB term 10-4, meaning yes, will at best label you as a newbie, and at worst a lid. In between will be much teasing and jesting and breaking of hearts. We are not CBers. We are so much more and should be proud of what we've accomplished. Just the technician test, upgrading to advanced licenses. It takes a lot of study, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time on the air to develop those skills. And, you know, anybody can pick up a mic and say 10-4. We're hams. Our hobby is built on the giants like Marconi, Morse, Tesla, and Edison. Tesla and Edison weren't hams. Well, neither were Marconi or Morse, but we're building on those guys. So use these terms and others like them with pride, and know that you are continuing to celebrate our traditions and our history every time you do. A complete listing of Q codes and other terms is linked in the description below. Now, word of mouth is the best advertising, so please share this video with your friends and on your club's website. I would certainly appreciate it. If you have an interesting story about terms that hams use, I call it ham speak, please add it to the comments below. I try to respond to all comments within 24 hours. Also, comment if you have suggestions for additional topics. I have a list of topics, but want to be sure that I'm talking about things that interest you. So tell me. Speaking of interest, if you found this video interesting and informative, please give it a like by clicking on the thumbs up button, and please subscribe if you'd like to see what other videos I posted. Click on the bell if you want to be notified when I post a new video. As always, thanks for checking out my channel and dropping by my shack for a chat. 7-3 from Elmer Tom. ND3N out.